All right, very good. We are live, Brenton.
We are live. Welcome
Yeah.
to episode 3. And I think the first live episode of Operations Unplugged as we test out our live streaming capability for the first time. It'll be interesting to see how this works.
Yep. And I'm drinking
Um,
tea. It's 11:30 on a Friday, and I'm drinking tea.
it's 4:26 and I'm drinking water. Although I think from now on I will be drinking beer, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Maybe we'll move it to 5 o'clock your time.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely a good call. Although that's not going to stop me, let's face it. Cool. So, two things on our agenda for today, John, and feel free to add more to it. First one is I thought we'd talk a little bit about the live stream as we're getting it up and running. Just talk a little bit about the setups and what we're doing just for others.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
then,
to be clear, we don't really know what we're doing, right?
no, we don't have a clue. And in fact, you know what would be quite hilarious is that we haven't got audio or something, so people can just see us talking but can't actually hear us, which is quite possible. And then the second topic was one you wanted to bring up. Was it mental health, was it?
Yeah. I mean, it's just something that keeps coming up, which is, how do we stay sane in these times, especially for people in IT operations that are used to getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and have grueling schedules, and how can we help each other?
Yeah, I think that's a good topic, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I've spent the last 6 hours on video calls. In fact, this is my last video call of the day, and they take a lot out of you because it's slightly different than being in a room with somebody. There's less you have to do. There's less less distractions to really take it out of you. But I just find myself absolutely exhausted at the end of the day after all those meetings. But
It's really full on. I mean, it's so productive as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
massively.
It's great, but you can't really move. I mean, we're sat. Normally when I'm on calls, even if I'm meeting in person, we'll go for a walk around a park, or you and I have walked, a couple of miles or whatever, and you're just stuck in a seat and on display to everybody, which is and you get to see yourself, so you have this sort of sense of self-awareness that you didn't have before. Yes. And if you do 8 hours of video calls, you're worn out.
Well, interestingly, actually, my wife was commenting on this as well, because I mean, I've worked. You've done it as well. I've worked from home for a long time. I have a nice way of working. I have a nice setup, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But actually, the way I'm working is very different since everybody else started working from home. And she's noticed that, because literally just little things like I might be on a call, interacting with a call, but I'd be, doing, I don't know, clean the kitchen or something like that, or making my lunch or something like that. Whereas now when you're on video calls, you can't do that. And she's noticed, which is quite funny. And she actually said it to me yesterday.
And I've seen people, whose spouses or partners have been kind enough to bring them food, and then it just sits on the desk getting cold. Yeah. Because pizza going into your mouth.
I had that with a bowl of pasta the other day. I was there kind of just eating and then kind of realizing, oh crap, I'm on camera.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what's let's interweave this a little bit. So what's your setup at the moment for this? What have you got going on? I know we were trading ideas on the best way of doing this.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of us have just sort of turned our offices into studios, and I'm very grateful to my wife because we've set up another office for her because she's also working from home. I'm also grateful that we bought a house big enough that we can do that. So we both work full time. So she has an office set up upstairs where she also has a similar setup, and she does a bunch of video calls. But yeah, I mean, really the changes I've made, I've got lighting. So that'd be my pro tip for anyone that's working from home on video. Like you don't want to be looking like you're in a dark basement. It's not good. So I bought some lights from Amazon so you can see a little bit of color.
Do you have the touch-up feature switched on Zoom by any chance?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It's making my skin look. Yeah, there's a touch-up feature on Zoom. Slightly better webcam, and most importantly, a great big microphone.
Yeah. I have exactly the same over here to the side, but mine's blue.
Just because yours is blue. Yeah,
it's better.
But yeah, I have it stuck right in front, and you can't see it. You can. Yeah. It's just below my hand here, and you get like a richer sound, and people can listen to that. Other than that, I didn't really make any changes. I squared up the room. It's you need to be careful when you frame the webcam. If it's sort of out to one side, it looks a bit odd. So I framed it up a little bit, and I left everything else as it is.
Yeah, pretty much the same from my side. I ended up with the Logitech Brio as the camera, which actually I'm really quite happy with. It's supposed to be a 4K camera, but most software can only pull HD out of it. But honestly, that's quite good enough, especially when you have the lights. I've one there and I've one up high pointed down at me. So actually the camera made a huge difference. And then same thing, I actually ended up rearranging my office because I previously had the window to my back. And that's a massive no-no because I mean people just saw silhouettes, or if I moved, the camera would try and adjust the contrast and everything would freak out. So I put a map behind me instead and turn my desk 90 degrees.
Yeah, I mean my window is out here to the left.
Yeah.
You can see this side is a little bit brighter, but the lights more or less compensate for that, so it's not too bad.
They do. I wouldn't have noticed unless you said that actually. So I think one of the big things I've changed over the last 3 and 4 weeks is because I'm not necessarily walking the miles I used to walk when I was on the phone. I've had to consciously change my routine throughout the day. And it also, it fits in quite nicely with the fact that I have quite a young son as well. He's 15 months old today, actually. So I try and pick an hour or an hour to an hour and a half in the middle of the day where I can go down and give my wife a bit of a break. And take him and have lunch with him and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of one of the big changes I've made. Again, going back to that whole mental health theme, am I getting enough time with him? It's very easy to work on past 6 or 7 o'clock after he goes to bed. So it's been one of the changes I've found quite positive in what I'm doing.
Oh, we just got a text message from a friend saying he joined the stream, but the chat is disabled.
I don't know if why don't I have a look at that?
That's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. YouTube can get pretty nasty. People get mean, so I don't know. So for me, a little bit similar, a little bit different. So my wife obviously works full time, so we have some help. Mm-hmm. But I tend to leave the door open. So if he wants to come in, even on video calls, we're all human at this point, and I always think back to that BBC video where the children are sort of coming in whilst he's on a live stream out to the nation.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I thought it was the nanny because that's what the US press had said. But it turns out it was the wife comes in after and sort of rescues them. And he's sort of, it's all a bit awkward. I'm trying to learn from that and say, well, if he comes in, he comes in. Better that than him feeling like he can't spend a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So that's that piece. But more than anything, I try not to back the video calls. So I do the video calls for groups, for all hands, for team meetings, or for group calls. If it's one-on-ones, I tend to just do WhatsApp or FaceTime audio and just go for a walk, stretch the legs, because you sat here and you can't move. The other thing that I do, and I encourage the rest of the team to do, is just go for a run in the middle of the day if you're allowed to, or if you've got a treadmill. We've got a Peloton bike downstairs. They're a great 45-minute sessions, and it just sort of breaks it up and it gives allows you to stretch the legs. Even if a walk or a run, just get some exercise in. I'm actually losing some weight for the first time in a while, which is great.
Consultants or traveling life can be indicative to or cause quite a bit of weight gain. I've been there, done that. The one thing actually that you said there that I completely relate to. So I use an app called Sleep Cycle, and that actually monitors how well I'm sleeping at night. It's fairly accurate. It's pretty good. But up until fairly recently, I'd always have 10, 12,000 steps, because it tells you in the morning, hey, you slept really well, you had 12,000 steps yesterday. Here's a recording of you snoring. Really don't want to listen to that. But one of the things I've noticed is it's my step count has gone dramatically down. And it's something I desperately need to fix over the next few days. So yeah, the running or even going out for a longer walk at lunch is going to become very important for me going forward. I can tell you that for nothing.
Yeah, so we have a 2.5 mile circuit that my wife and I do, and that takes approximately 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So if we've got a 1 hour gap between calls, that's enough time to get changed, get out, get back, get a shower, and get back to the desk. And that's 2.5 miles, and that's exactly 10,000 steps, by the way.
Yep. Yeah, and there you go. So and then you'll spend another 2.5, maybe 3 walking around your house during the day. So right then you're at a good step count for the day. The other thing as well I've been thinking a lot about is the tool sets that I'm using to manage my day. Because I mean I've trusty whiteboard there, which is what I use for kind of bigger ticket items, but remembering that you have a list of things you need to get done that day, and when you get to the end of that list, you're done. Don't just keep on working for the sake of working. Go downstairs, spend time with the kids, and that kind of stuff is quite important. So I'm very much focused on what tools am I using to manage my day, and are they effective, and are they helping me get through things? So that's another one that I'm focused on.
What do you mean specifically? It's a bit generic.
It's a bit generic. So at the moment, I'm using 2 major ones. I mean, obviously we have the SaaS stuff as well. So like, for example, anything that I do with customers, I use our CRM for it. So we use HubSpot as our CRM. So there you can do a lot of task management and whatnot. But actually, personally, I'm using 2 tools. One is Asana, which allows me to do just project and task management, shared amongst my wider team. But the other one I'm playing with at the moment is one called Notion, which is quite an old school application. And it's based upon, basically, it's got a giant database behind it. You can fire anything in, link anything you want to link. It's got markdown support, it links into Google Docs, all that kind of stuff. So you can start to put together topic areas and then to-do lists for specific topic areas that amalgamate into one to-do list. It's infinitely customizable. In fact, it's almost dauntingly customizable. And when you get up and running, it takes a good few weeks to get used to it enough to make it productive for you. And I think I'm starting to get there, but it's quite a nice tool. Notion, I'd kind of recommend it.
Okay. Oh, I don't know. I feel like I've got so many tools in my life. I'd rather get rid of one, but
no, we're talking about applications here.
yeah, probably. So should we shift onto this topic of mental health?
Sure, go for
it. And it's just I think there's a few aspects to it. So I'm a bit confused because I opened the live stream to take a look and it has a lag.
It's over here on my right hand side. It's about 15 seconds behind. It's quite confusing.
And I had to turn it off because you were talking, and I'm like, is he now muted? This is all very new to me. So I think it's really tough for a lot of people. I mean, I've worked from home in one capacity or another for really the last 20 years as I came out of college. So I never really worked in an office. I mean, I've had offices, but I've never really worked in an office day in and day out. So it's been normal for me. And particularly in the last 10 years, as I've been in and out of the US, I've run remote teams. So for me, the big change was really being chained to a desk. But other than that, I've been sort of used to it for a long while. There are a ton of people in the workplace that have had a routine for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, where they've got up in the morning, they've got changed, they've gone to the gym, got in the car, they drove to the office, they sat at the desk, they get to get lunch and so on.
Morning coffee with the same people every single day.
Yeah, and they have a routine, and this must be incredibly disruptive. And I'm just talking to those who are working from home and not those that are unfortunate enough not to be able to work right now. And I noticed our Montessori teacher a couple of weeks ago, and she had she had jumped on her first Zoom call and was trying then to do this, and I think it was quite a transformation for her to have to do this.
Well, it's a completely different way of working. I mean, it's a great example, actually. And I had a similar one as well. I was talking to a financial advisor in Dublin, just a guy who looks after our pensions in the organization. And it was his first ever Zoom call. This was just before all the restrictions were announced, but he kind of knew it was coming. And it was his first ever time conducting any sort of serious business remotely using video calls. The guy is 62. I mean, he's heading close to retirement. This was all new to him. And what struck me was the actual joy and excitement on his face that he got it right. It worked, which I thought was quite funny. But it was completely new to him. And he said he had to get into a mindset that the new way of doing business for him was going to be this way, at least for the next 6 to 8 months. Because people don't want to be going out just to sit down with a financial advisor. They want to just do it remotely and do it from home, which is just completely different.
Yeah, and it's sort of actually fascinating because our leadership meetings at Avantra, we've used Zoom or Google since the very beginning, because I was always remote, but our board meetings were always face to face, and so we had our first board meeting this month, which sort of started off with the typical, my God, the tool didn't work that we had. And I can't remember, it was some tool I've never heard of. So we then switched onto Zoom, which was okay. But then you had people that were on camera, that were off camera. It was kind of interesting. It was very different to the in the room experience. I'm pretty confident for the next board meeting, we'll have all kind of spent enough time on video to have worked through that. Yeah. And that'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, it's extremely challenging, and nowhere I think is it more challenging in IT operations. I mean, if you look at, I think it was TCS, and I think the article said that they had 20% work from home capability.
I saw the same article.
In their kind of primary India-based
and I think actually that article said that it wasn't just unique to TCS, but they were using them as an example. Of it, that was across the board in quite a lot of the offshore IT ops teams. They really struggle with that.
Yeah. I mean, because they have desktops still in the office.
Yep.
I've heard that companies like Dell are doing phenomenally well because people are acquiring laptops so people can work from home. I've personally found that a bit strange because obviously I've had a laptop. I bought my first laptop in 1998. IBM ThinkPad in 1998, and I've had one. I never had a desktop since then. I had one before then.
Well, the only desktops I would have built or had over the years were ones I would have built for fun. I don't think I've ever purchased one.
Oh yeah, you're a little younger. Yeah, I mean, the laptops didn't really exist when I was when I grew up into computers. My first computer was an IBM PCXT in 1982, I think. So
you're showing your age now. You do realize this, right?
I'm sort of partially showing my age, but it's also partially I did start very young. So yeah, I thought it might be helpful to those people that are doing IT operations and working from home, just some tips on staying sane during the lockdown, because I think it's going to be really difficult for people not to get cabin fever.
Yeah, so. I agree. I think the obvious one that we've pretty much talked through already is don't be chained to the desk. Actually get up and walk around, and if you used to get up and go for a coffee at 11 a.m., make sure you're still doing that. Actually, this is a great story. So actually one of our teams in Switzerland, and I've experienced this because I spent a bit of time in our office over there. They have a morning ritual where 8 a.m. they'd all turn up to work and go straight into the kitchen and sit down and have their croissant and their coffees, and they'd sit down and talk about the day previous or what was coming up for the day or just life in general. And I do believe they're now doing that on Zoom every morning at 8 a.m. just because that was their ritual and they were really missing it. So it was important to allow them to connect with the same people they always connected with, even though their day jobs may not actually allow them to do that. I thought that was quite a nice thing that they had started doing to help themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we've got that. I mean, we're lucky enough to have a guy called Jean-Luc who is doing exercises that I think help with immune system and things like that. I forget the name of the system that he has, but I mean, it's a nice group activity. Apparently, we don't have Zoom turned on for the participants for that.
Yeah. Yes, because I think Jean-Luc has his turned on, but for other people, but for other people, not so much.
yeah. It's but yeah, I mean, that's great. And actually, at 5 p.m. today, we've got we're doing happy hour with a customer. Yep. So we'll I think we're buying some drinks for people or whatever it takes. I think that's one. The other thing that I would recommend is and I just got a text. Hi Cherie, probably not watching, but she just texted saying,
"Hi Cherie,
I'm checking in. How are you?" And
good. Sorry, my Siri went off when I said hi Cherie.
Yeah. Hi Alexa. Let's see the little guy outside now. But it really helps, I think, if we all start to do this. 2 questions: how are you? How are you really doing? And is there anything I can do to help?
Yeah, and it's but on top of that as well, also recognizing it's perfectly normal to turn around and say, oh, in my case, my child's teething. So you know what, he has good days and bad days, and that's okay. And sometimes that means we need to step away from our desks from time to time. So you know what, saying no, actually it's not great, little one's teething or whatever, it's perfectly acceptable. You don't need to hide the family life aspect from your day-to-day life because you're working from home. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting real-time feedback on this, by the way.
It's great.
You need to pin stuff to your wooden board so it looks less like a bed headboard.
Interesting.
It does look like you're sitting in bed. Now you know.
Oh, well, there we go. Maybe I am sitting in bed, benefits of working from home. Hold on, I can put this up.
What is the wooden thing behind you?
It is, I don't know, maybe it is a bed head. I don't know. It was built into the room when we moved in. And there's a bed over there, so it probably is a headboard for a second bed or something like that. So
okay,
that's good to know. I could switch on my lights. They're plugged out, but anyway, because the map has lights.
And the answer, DJ, is yes. We will be doing it again. And would you like to be the next guest?
Yes, I think he's just offered to be the next guest. Actually, this is a good point for us to pause and kind of say, hope you're enjoying the stream. Hope you're enjoying the episode of the podcast. We're going to try and record this every Friday in or around 4 p.m. GMT, and that would be 11 a.m. your time, John, isn't that right?
That's right,
11 Eastern time, 11 Eastern, 10 Central. So please do feel free to join us. We'll be sending out the live stream link shortly before that. And it's okay, DJ, you're allowed to distract us. And DJ has agreed to be our next host, so we can happily announce he's going to be with us next Friday. So anyway, back to you. You were saying, John, we got distracted.
The next thing is, I always remember, my parents were war children, right? Or where are? It's difficult to say the right.
It's like an episode of The Big Bang Theory. Where are? Do something. Yeah.
And so they recounted the stories of the war, of the Second World War in England, which were from a child's perspective. Which I always thought was fascinating. My father would have been 7 or 8 at the beginning of the World War, and so he kind of experienced that from a child's perspective. And it always struck me how the country came together. And so one of the things I try to do is just try and go and just try and help somebody in some small way. I mean, maybe they want, my neighbor wanted 10 pounds of bacon.
10 pounds of bacon. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everything's better with bacon, but 10 pounds of bacon.
Who's judging? I mean, they wanted bacon. I mean, what does it matter?
True,
So, I went to Costco and bought bacon, and it came in 5-pound packets. And when I came, they said you can only have one. And I said, I'm sorry, my neighbor had asked for it. Don't worry, you can keep the other packets out to someone else. And they rung them both through separately, which I thought was very sweet. Last Sunday I went and opened their pool, with appropriate, social distancing measures. You're not allowed to have a pool person around. So you're going to leave the pool closed, or are you going to open it yourself? Opening a pool yourself is really easy, by the way. There are YouTube videos. And so, it takes a few minutes and everyone gets to sort of feel better, which is not only does it help someone else, but the act of helping somebody helps your own mental health.
Yes, it does.
There's a link there. It does. Releases endorphins.
And interestingly, it's slightly different scenario, but one of the things, so my wife's a chef, so she likes to source the best possible produce, which is awesome because I eat very well. But obviously in these times, thanks. I'm losing weight. But in these times, it's impossible for us to go to the local market because every Thursday morning, there's a market nearby to us, and every Saturday morning there's a market nearby where we get all of our fresh produce where at all possible. And of course, that's just not happening now. But there's actually a friend of mine. He set up a website 12 months ago, which is now taking off here. It's called Neighbor Food. And what he's done is he's enrolled all of these market stalls onto his website, and you choose what you want from his website, and then he gives you a pickup point and a collection time. So what happens is in the morning, all of the producers come and they drop off all their stuff. So if you're ordering cheese, they might bring 10 blocks of cheese for the 10 people that ordered them, and they go into a box with your name on it. So then you arrive, you give your name out the window, and they put the box in the boot of your car. So it's completely socially distant, but you're still able to shop from the local producers, but you're not going into a market setting, which I thought was a really innovative response to the crisis. Now, it's something he's been doing for a while, and it was starting to take off a little bit, especially for elderly people. But it's brilliant for those of us now who now want to continue to shop locally during this.
It's really interesting, the businesses which are thriving. On the IT operations side, it's just supposed to be an IT operations.
True.
I've gone a bit sort of more human than that, but that's okay. The one big thing I would recommend is, if you've got people who need to get up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, how can you help them with automation? I sat with a customer in Las Vegas last year, and their staff has to get up at 2 o'clock every morning on a Saturday to shut the systems down so they can do maintenance. Is
that a unique to SAP thing? Because I always feel like the non-SAP aspect, or at least quite a few non-SAP aspects of the operations world, are ahead of us on this. They've already managed to automate quite a bit of this, but SAP is just playing catch up a little bit. We as an industry, not SAP the company.
I think it's particularly bad in SAP, but you just need to see whether it happens or not. Either it happens or it doesn't happen. So I would just recommend looking at it.
Yeah, I think at the very least, we should be looking to automate any of those tasks that are A, repetitive, and B, cause our people to have to get up at ridiculous hours.
Yeah, especially in these times. I mean, a good night's sleep is one of the best things that you can do for your mental health. Mm-hmm. And if it's disturbed, right in the middle, and you have to get up just to shut a damn system down or start it back up again. I understand if there is a production crisis in an IT system and you have to go and fix it, that's okay.
But that should be the exception, not the rule, is the whole point.
That's the point. And I think companies, and really interestingly, by the way, this particular customer, I won't say their name, but they have a very special culture. And it's well known to be a culture of caring about people. And the head of IT actually lit up when he thought about this, because it then bothered him that his team was getting up in the middle of the night. I actually think we're going to see a lot more of that kind of human side of people. You see the dark side of that a little bit with companies like Amazon, where people are striking.
Right.
But maybe that will come back round the other way. And I sort of have a real belief that if we help each other, that we will come to a better side of humanity than what we've seen.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And on top of that, actually, sorry, while you were talking, I was just pulling up, there was a great article from, I don't know if you come across him, a guy called Mike Elgin. So he's a really good tech journalist, and he wrote a great article around how, from interviews he's done, quite a lot of IT leadership are thinking about how they can increase spending in the IT space during this time rather than reducing it, which I thought was an interesting. A lot of people are surprised by that, but I think it's absolutely a no-brainer.
I think it really depends where. So on spend, it really depends where. I am seeing the gamut. The big projects, big things. SAP S/4HANA, big migrations. Those are still progressing. They're not canceling ongoing projects there. No way. What that means to the longer term of the move to S4 is a little bit trickier. But the big ones are going underway. You go to the other end of the spectrum. You and I've got a friend, and all of his pipeline are gone, and all of his projects are gone for smaller, more niche stuff. But I do think that so I don't 100% agree with what this guy said, but I do think that companies are going to be investing in automation. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be investing in cost reduction, and they're going to be investing, to some degree, in digital transformation more than they did, because there's no analog world.
Yeah, everything has to be digital. We're being forced. Isn't this a great test of a digital first strategy for companies that were trying to get down that road anyway? They're being pushed into it.
Yeah, I mean, you just take in Pennsylvania where I live, alcohol is a bit of a strange topic because we've still got a prohibition thing going on, however many years later. It's odd, but it's true. And so it's all moved online. Now, Nielsen has showed that there's been a 280% increase in online liquor sales.
Wow.
Well, that's all very well, but the Pennsylvania Liquor Board shut down not only the stores, but the distribution.
Yeah.
And by the way,
I remember you telling me once that doesn't all the alcohol imported into the state have to go through a local liquor distribution center, is it?
It does, but everyone's ignoring that now.
Prohibition is still alive and well.
The enforcement people are also off work, so
yeah,
no, that's pretty much gone out the window. And actually, the Pennsylvania Liquor Board is reopening distribution for limited online sales, a maximum of 1 order and 4 items per person per day, which I think is a mistake. It's the wrong approach. They should be looking at bulk ordering, but anyhow.
Yeah, but to go back to the point you were making earlier, I thought it was a good one, which is I wonder how businesses that were doing work where literally people were turning up and doing daily checks as 3/4 of their day on, multiple systems, using desktop systems. I wonder how they're reacting, or maybe you can give an insight into how they're reacting to not having the people who can just turn up and do that in an office at a desktop computer, but then how do they fulfill their contracts? How do they keep their customer systems going?
So I'm not sure I've got a straight answer to that, because India has, in particular, is on a national lockdown,
more than most places. Let's face it,
they're taking it pretty seriously, which is great. So I just sort of assume that not all of the work is getting done. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I assume it's just not all getting done.
Well, if your capacity is reduced by 80%, something's got to fall out the other side. And I know that number is a bit.
It's at the high end, right?
It's at the high end.
I mean, a lot of stuff has got to go by the wayside.
Yeah.
And so, it means that there's more pressure on those people who do have remote access. And we've got to invest in DevOps. We've got to invest in automation. And this isn't just an SAP show, but from an SAP perspective, it's got to be number one priority now for customers and for managed service providers. Yep. Automate.
Automate. Keep your mental health and go for a walk. Are the 3 things I think we're trying to get out of this one. Okay, John, I think we're starting to run out of time. Shall we wrap up this one? So hopefully next week we should have at least one guest, and DJ Adams, noted live streamer, has tentatively agreed to be a guest on the show next week, which would be really, really cool. I hope that we actually produced audio or something that actually went up on the live stream during this.
I assume so, because DJ had left some comments, so at least he heard it.
At least he heard it.
Anyone else did.
That's good. And you'll be able to find the podcast under IT Operations Unplugged on most major podcast platforms that support video podcasts. Not all do. And the live stream will be up on the podcast feed in a few hours. So please do feel free to subscribe and download. Awesome. Well, thanks for organizing, Brenton. No problem. Good. Thanks for coming on, John, and looking forward to seeing everybody next time. Cool. Thanks, guys. Happy Friday. Happy